Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome back to the channel after 9 or 10 days from the last Grand Prix in Spain, and welcome tonight or today if it's afternoon or morning. Welcome to the preview for this weekend's 2021 Monaco Grand Prix from the streets of Monte Carlo. Great to be back in Monaco. Of course, we raced here 2 years ago. That was the last Monaco Grand Prix, and hopefully we are in for a race weekend that's very exciting, very close, just like really the first 4 races of 2021 were. And as you can see on screen, a picture that really does sum up the battle for victory at the last Monaco Grand Prix between Hamilton and Verstappen. Hopefully we're in for that again this weekend, as of course they are engaged at the minute in a championship battle, which Lewis Hamilton is winning. But yeah, hopefully you guys, no matter what part of the world you're from or what time of day it is, hopefully you guys are having a good day. And yeah, hopefully with me tonight you'll preview and give your thoughts as to what you think will happen this weekend for the teams and drivers. But let me first just get into, I guess, the biggest news of the break between the Spanish and the Monaco Grand Prix. And that news is that the Turkish Grand Prix has been cancelled. We kind of speculated on this a couple of weeks ago that it was going to be cancelled because of the bad COVID situation in Turkey, which of course no one really from the Western Europe side can do anything about at the moment. I think Turkey is currently in a lockdown, so the Turkish Grand Prix just wasn't possible, I'm afraid, and it's a shame because I would have liked to have seen the cars race around there this season, but that's just the way it is. So, of course, we have Monaco this weekend, and then in 2 weeks, as scheduled, it'll be the race in or on the streets of Baku, which I'm looking forward to. And then instead of a Grand Prix a week later in Turkey, there will now be no race on that weekend. But now, the French Grand Prix has been brought a week forward, so it'll be on June the 19th and 20th, that weekend, the French Grand Prix. And then the last weekend in June, which would have been the French Grand Prix, will be the Styrian Grand Prix, and then a week after will be the Austrian Grand Prix. So we're going to have what we had last year, which of course was 2 races in Austria. So a triple header coming up, which I am definitely looking forward to. So just to update you guys about that in case you did miss that news. Turkish Grand Prix cancelled, an extra race in Austria added, and a triple header coming your way in about a month's time. I think exactly a month's time as well. So yeah, can't wait for that, even though the first of that triple header is pretty dire in terms of a racetrack. They have made some changes to the track though in France, so let's hope that's improved things. But yeah, that's really the biggest news. Also, Lando Norris has signed a contract extension with Mclaren, which is good news for his fans and McLaren fans. But other than that, it's been really business as usual in the Formula One world. And we'll now get into this preview and how I think the teams and drivers respectively will do this weekend, and also get into what needs to happen for certain teams and drivers, because we're now, with this Grand Prix, we're now, 5 races into the season, and we can already see clear patterns developing in 2021. And I think for certain teams and drivers, they need to start acting quite quickly to save their dreams of a good season in certain aspects of the grid, which I'll get into in a moment. Let's first though get into the top 10 in the Drivers' World Championship. Just to remind you guys going into the weekend, so Lewis Hamilton leads by 14 points from Max Verstappen in second, Valtteri Bottas is third, then Norris is in 4th with 5th, Charles Leclerc, then Perez 6th, Ricciardo 7th, then Sainz in 8th, and then Ocon and Gasly rounding up the top 10. And then in the Constructors, you have Mercedes, of course, at the top by 29 points, I believe. And then Red Bull second, McLaren third, 5 points ahead of Ferrari, who are, of course, in 4th position. And then you've got Alpine in 5th, just about fending off AlphaTauri, who are 6th. Aston Martin, of course, are 7th. And then the remaining teams are Alfa Romeo, Williams, and of course the Haas F1 team, who are destined not to score a point this season. But let's first, of course, get into the Silver Arrows Mercedes, who have had a very good last 3 or 4 weeks. They really have. They've got, last 2 races, of course, 2 race victories. Their car is looking a lot better than it was at the start of the season, especially aerodynamically. It looks as though it's probably the best car aerodynamically again in Formula 1, like it has been for the last couple of years. It's still very close, a close run thing between Mercedes and Red Bull in terms of who has the more grip. But I think you have to say, based on the last couple of races, Mercedes are just about ahead in that factor. And coming into this weekend, they are looking the favourites, I think, because of that. I still think because of how short the lap is and how big of a difference the drivers make around this circuit, I still think Red Bull and Mercedes are going to be basically in qualifying and in the race as well, basically equal. I don't think it's going to be a clear, Mercedes are faster than Red Bull or Red Bull are faster than Mercedes. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be down to the drivers in terms of the results that are accomplished this weekend. And I think that goes really for most of the grid. There will, of course, be certain cars that won't be good or will be better on a track like this. The Ferrari, for example, which we'll get into in a moment. But again, because of how close things are in Monaco, normally it does tend to come down to a great driver performance in terms of that team having a great result rather than the car being, so special, I guess you could say. And because Lewis Hamilton so far this season has been better than Verstappen, obviously, has been definitely the best driver this season on the grid. And because of the way, especially in qualifying this season, he's been so clinical, really so clinical, and still been, even when the car's not quite been there for him, he's still been getting the most out of it so far this season. And again, because he's been so clinical in qualifying, and of course qualifying here in Monaco is so important, as we all know, Lewis Hamilton has to be the favourite this weekend, because in qualifying, of course, the race result in terms of who wins is going to be decided, really, isn't it, by who gets pole position. I mean, if you look at the history of the Monaco Grand Prix in the last 20 years, say, or, since the 21st century, the only times pole position doesn't win is either, a big mistake or, a mechanical issue or something like that. It's very rare you see the pole position man being beaten deservedly in the race. I think the only examples I can think of are, I think, Ralf Schumacher in 2003, who started on pole and finished in 4th place and didn't really have any problems that, dictated that result. Just trying to think back. But again, if you look at the races since the Monaco, or the races here in Monaco, since the 21st century was born, the 2000 race, Michael Schumacher was on pole, was going to win, but then his car broke. 2001, Coulthard was on pole, but he stalled before the race started. So Schumacher then basically started on pole and he won the race. 2002, the pole man lost position at the start, but was still in contention for victory, but then retired from the race. 2003, again, that was a rare example of starting on pole and just not actually having the speed to win the race. 2004, the pole man won, same in 2005 and 2006 and 2007. 2008 was a wet race, so that definitely complicates that issue. And then 2009, of course, the pole man won, same in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. You see the point I'm trying to make. Very, very rare that in the dry around Monaco, you will be beaten on pure pace for, say, reasons that would be legitimate and would be normal, say, at a normal racetrack, an open racetrack. Here in Monaco, if you get pole, you're going to win the race, let's be honest. And because of Lewis Hamilton's great performances in qualifying, he is still the king of a single lap and instead of the king of qualifying, without doubt. Verstappen's been great in qualifying so far this season. I know he's made a couple mistakes, but his speed has been really phenomenal. And I thought, honestly, in qualifying in Barcelona, I thought Max was really, really good, despite still not getting pole. I can't bet against Lewis Hamilton. I just can't do it because he's so damn good. So, I mean, we'll see what Verstappen or his teammate Bottas or Perez or even maybe a Charles Leclerc, we'll see what they could do maybe to offset Hamilton. But without doubt, Lewis Hamilton is the favourite. There is no doubt about that in my mind for pole and for victory this weekend. It will still be close on lap time, and in the race, I don't think Lewis Hamilton is going to run off into the distance and win the race by half a minute. I don't think that'll happen. But again, as long as you get pole and you get the start right, you're going to win the race. Simple as. But for Max Verstappen, even though I don't think he is, again, the favourite for pole this weekend, he has to win this Grand Prix. Has to win it. And of course, that means, like I was making the point a minute ago of how important pole position is here, he has to get pole position here in Monaco. And this pole, I think, would, if he was to get it, it would probably be the best pole he's ever had in Formula 1 because he'd have to drive so well just to get it, because it would be so close between him and Lewis Hamilton. But because of the way the championship battle has gone so far in the first 4 races, Verstappen's got to win. Because if Hamilton was to win again this weekend and pull out the gap to, say, 21 points, I know it's still, Verstappen would still clearly be within reach of Lewis Hamilton. And because of the tracks coming up after Monaco, Baku, that's a track that should suit the Red Bull. France, not so much, but the 2 Austria races and Silverstone, I think Red Bull are going to be very strong around there. So it's not, if Hamilton wins the race this weekend and Verstappen finishes second or even third, the championship is not over by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. But considering how Lewis Hamilton has started the season, Verstappen now really does have to bounce back and respond properly because, Hamilton winning 4 of the first 5 races, that's going to be very difficult to break that momentum that Lewis Hamilton has. So, again, he has to win this weekend. And I think in Baku, because I think Red Bull will have the stronger car there, I think he also has to win in Baku. And I think Baku actually shouldn't be anywhere near as difficult for him to win, say, as this Grand Prix, because Lewis Hamilton isn't great, let's say that, around Baku. If you look at the history of Hamilton's performances around Baku, he's not had great races there. I mean, he did win in 2018, but only did because his teammate had a puncture right at the end of the race. He probably would, he would have won the 2017 race had it not been for a freak issue. But historically, Lewis Hamilton has never really had great pace around Baku. In Monaco, though, he has. And because of the momentum that Hamilton has so far, and he cannot let Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes build up anymore, got to win this weekend and then get another one in Baku to kind of make it equal again in the championship. Because, if Verstappen was to win the next 2 races and Hamilton was to finish in second, with the gap being what it is now, the championship lead would go down. I think it'd be basically level. Maybe Hamilton would still lead by a point if he had a fastest lap point or something like that. Or maybe Verstappen would lead by a point if he had a fastest lap point. But he can't let Lewis Hamilton build any more momentum. He has to put a stop to it this weekend. If he doesn't, again, it's still not over. I mean, if he was to retire from the race and Hamilton was to win, then I honestly think Hamilton would be extremely hard to beat from then on, because Hamilton would then have a 40-point lead probably if Hamilton was to win the race and Verstappen did retire from the race this weekend. So I think it would be pretty difficult to predict Verstappen winning the championship. But again, if Verstappen can win this Grand Prix and then the one in 2 weeks in Baku, then it is absolutely bang on, and the chances of Verstappen to win the championship are still very, very good. But if Hamilton was to win this weekend, then again, the chances of Verstappen to win the championship would still be on, but Hamilton would definitely be the clear favourite if he was to win this Grand Prix, because the momentum with him at the moment is such that he's just in such a great mood at the minute, Lewis Hamilton, such confidence, and Verstappen has got to find a way to break it, and I think this is the track where he's going to have to do it. Anyway, let's get on to the next couple teams. So the front, of course, of the midfield pack. And first off, McLaren. And here is the livery that McLaren are going to be using for the Grand Prix this weekend. I think it's a special fan-influenced one. Does remind me, actually, of the Vodafone McLarens, say, about 10 years ago. Which I think was actually the last time McLaren were on the podium in Monaco, funnily enough. It's a nice livery. I do prefer their... the livery that they normally have. This is a nice livery, though, without doubt. But in terms of this weekend, I don't really know what to say with McLaren. I'm sure their drivers will be good this weekend because, again, it's a driver's circuit, and I think they'll, Norris and Ricciardo respond well to the challenge of the Monte Carlo circuit. But with the way their car has been in qualifying trim, and the way it is around these type of circuits, I'm just not quite sure where to predict them in terms of where they'll be. I don't think they'll be as good as Ferrari this weekend. I think they'll be, at best, probably the 4th best team. But because of their drivers and, how good they are, and especially Daniel Ricciardo, who is a Monaco specialist, we have to say, it's hard to say, this is where they're going to be, most likely. At the minute, I'd have to say they're probably going to be, say, between 7th and 10th or 7th and 11th. I think that's probably the most realistic area, you'd have to say. Again, I don't think they're going to be up there with Ferrari. If, say, the second driver at Mercedes or the second driver at Red Bull are not quite having a good day, maybe they could cause an upset there. But when I look at them compared to Ferrari, I just don't see them really having a really good result this weekend. The only way that can really happen is in qualifying if one of their drivers pull out an absolutely stonking lap, which we know both of them can do when they nail it. Lando Norris hasn't quite done that enough times this season, but we know he is capable of it, and Daniel Ricciardo, of course, is very capable of great laps, around this circuit. Think back to 3 years ago where he put in an amazing lap to get pole position and the race victory, of course, that year. So, between 7th and 10th, I think is where McLaren are probably going to be at. If I was to predict now where they'll be on the grid, I'd probably say Daniel Ricciardo in 7th and then Lando Norris in 9th or 10th. Again, though, very hard to predict because of the other great drivers you have in that midfield pack and how close things are between the certain cars at the moment in the midfield pack in Formula 1, which, of course, is great to see. But talking of Ferrari and them being strong this weekend, that is not going to be a surprise because if you look at the data so far this season in aerodynamic parts of certain circuits, for example, the second and third sector in Spain, the middle sector in Portimao, Ferrari had a car that was right up there with Mercedes and Red Bull. It really was. So this weekend in Monaco, especially Charles Leclerc, of course, home race, and he lives in Monaco, grew up in Monaco. You cannot count them out for a podium. You cannot count them out, especially Charles Leclerc, because so far this season, in qualifying, Charles Leclerc has been getting the most out of the car and has been putting that Ferrari in positions that, even though it's been better, the car this year, even, the positions he's put it in, even those positions they haven't really deserved based on the pace the car has. It's just been Charles Leclerc driving at an incredible level, which is at the minute, you'd have to say up there with Verstappen and Hamilton also, the level he's driving at. So yeah, with Charles Leclerc, you cannot count him out for a podium chance. In fact, I do think he will get on the podium this weekend. I think he'll qualify in 3rd place, and I think he'll finish in 3rd place. But I don't think he'll be that far either off of pole position or the race win. I think in terms of pole, probably 2 to 3 tenths of a second he'll be off getting the pole position. And then for race victory, I mean, he won't win the race and he won't be, you know, right up behind Hamilton and Verstappen or whoever's, you know, up there. But he won't be far off. He's not going to be getting lapped, or he's not going to be 30, 40 seconds off at the end of the race. I don't think he will, because I don't think the Ferrari around this circuit this weekend is that far off pace-wise from Mercedes or Red Bull. So if you're a Ferrari fan, still don't expect too much because of the, you know, again, the great speed they have in the twisty parts of the certain circuits we've raced at so far. You would maybe think, oh, well, Ferrari, you know, really should be in the fight strongly for pole position, but just don't expect that, because do remember as well, the 2 great teams ahead of them and the 2 great drivers ahead of Leclerc in Hamilton and Verstappen, who I'm sure are going to be, you know, putting absolutely everything they have into getting pole position, and they're going to have an amazing fight for it. So just don't expect a pole position for Ferrari this weekend. But if you're a fan of the team and, you know, Ferrari don't have a car in the top 5, I would be severely disappointed. That's how strong I think they will be this weekend. And definitely look out for Charles Leclerc. He's going to be very, very good. And also look out for Carlos Sainz, because most of the time here in Monaco, Carlos Sainz has been, if you look at his history, has been pretty good as well. The only thing, again, is his qualifying most of the time this season has not quite been up to par compared to Charles Leclerc. So if he can get it right this time, say like he did in Portugal, then don't count him out either. Because there's been great races that Carlos has had here. I remember in Monaco in 2017, finishing in 6th place. I think qualified in 6th place as well. Of course, the last Monaco Grand Prix we had here, he finished in 6th place and performed a great, I think, double overtake at Casino Square on the first lap. So they've thankfully got 2 very good drivers in their car. And a car this weekend that should really fly around the streets of Monte Carlo, and we will see, of course, in, well, tomorrow, of course, in the first practice day of the Grand Prix weekend, but especially on Saturday, I think you're going to see Ferrari very close to Mercedes and Red Bull, but eventually, when it really matters in qualifying, I just don't think they'll have quite enough to be up on pole position. But imagine if they were, how amazing would that be? But let me, before I go to the other teams in the midfield, let me just come to you guys in the chat to see what you guys have to say, and you know what you think of the top 4 teams this weekend and how they will get on, and let me know in terms of the Hamilton Verstappen battle, who do you think will come out on top, and do you think, like me, that Verstappen, because of Hamilton's early momentum and great just driving in general, do you think that Max Verstappen really has to respond this weekend and get the win? Let me know in the live chat and also the comment section as well. And for Ferrari, do you think they can seriously compete for pole position with Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz? Let me know again in the chat and the comment section down below. Also, guys, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. As of course, on Saturday, I'll be live 3 times for practice 3, qualifying, and a race preview. And then I'll be live on Sunday for the race watch along as well. And on Monday night for the race review. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my channel page and do it there as well. Hit the notifications bell. And if you could, would be very much appreciated to like this video, smash the like button, and share this channel and video everywhere you can. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the comments here before I move on. R asks, do you think a 2009 may happen next year with Red Bull and Merc? If Red Bull and Merc keep developing this season, if this season continues to be close, like when McLaren and Ferrari's 2009 car was terrible. That's one thing I saw actually in the last week or so. Very interesting news that Red Bull and especially their engineers are wanting to really crack on with next year's car. I mean, of course they've got a clear outline of what they want to do with the car, but they want to obviously get ahead on building that and making sure it's absolutely up to scratch as early as possible before it actually is seen in a Grand Prix next season. But Verstappen, because Verstappen, of course, this season so far has a car that can compete for the championship, and he believes in himself, which he should, because he's very good. Verstappen has been demanding, really, and has got his way so far, that Red Bull keep developing this year's car, to help his championship bid. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know where Red Bull are going to be. We don't know where Mercedes are going to be. So it's hard to say. And it is, because of how big the regulation changes are, it's very hard to sit here and say, this is what they should do. I mean, of course, every team, again, they will be already developing their car for next season, and they'll be quite a bit along in that development. But because of how different the cars will be next season, it's hard to say how it will affect certain teams, because at least with, say, even the 2017 regulation changes, which were notable, but they weren't absolutely massive or as big as the 2022 regulation changes are. So, if you look at the 2017 pecking order compared to 2016, it wasn't massively different compared to, the year before. Next year, we could, because of how much the regulations are going to be different, we could end up with a completely different pecking order. I'd say this is the biggest regulation change, say, since 2014. You could argue since 2009, but I'd say at least since 2014. And of course, from 2013 to 2014, we had a massive difference in the pecking order because, Red Bull were no longer the kings. It was then Mercedes. Williams had risen from the back to nearly the front. Lotus had gone from the front to the back. Ferrari were a bit worse. So, it's hard to sit here and say what effect it will have if Red Bull and Mercedes keep developing as much as they can, and much as they're allowed to, of course, with the new token system. It's hard to say how much it will affect them next season, because we don't really know what's going to happen. We could end up with, I don't think any team at the front of the grid. I don't think it's going to be that wacky, say. But because of how different it will be, I don't think we can sit here and say, well, if Red Bull develop their car for a bit more than Mercedes, then this is, then it will affect them in this way, because Red Bull could still very easily end up with a car quicker than Mercedes next season. Purely based on if they interpret the rules in a much better way, even if they start development on that car a bit later. So it'd be great if we got that. I mean, if it was a 2009 situation, it would be especially great, because then we would have, say, Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tauri, say, or Alfa Romeo and Alpine at the front of the grid. And then you'd have Mercedes and Red Bull fighting just about to get into the top 7 or 8 on the grid. So yeah, that'd be absolutely great. But it's very hard to say whether, what effect it will have, because we don't know where anyone is for next season. Next season is literally a reset. This is the last season, really, of the cars that we've had since 2014. I know, of course, we had regulation changes in 2017 and 2019, and the cars from 2016 to 2017 did change quite a bit, but it wasn't anything as seismic and groundbreaking as the ones for next season. So this season is the end of these, say, first generation of hybrid cars. Because after this season, we're going to be going again into completely new aerodynamic territory. And then about 3 years after that, we're going to be going into different territory with the power units. So this is, again, the last year of a dying breed of car for Formula One. Let me find some other comments here. Francisco says, I think it's likely Max gets pole, but Red Bull might lose through strategy in the race. Very unlikely, unless you make an absolute howler on strategy in Monaco, which is possible. I don't think that'll happen. I will say, I don't think Red Bull's strategic choices this season have been as bad as people claim. As usual, people always claim things are much worse or much better than they actually are. That goes for everything in life, I think you'll find. If you look at Red Bull's, again, strategic decisions this season, in Bahrain, they did mess up by not responding to Hamilton pitting when he did the first time in Bahrain. And I think put Red Bull on the back foot and forced Verstappen to win the race in a very last-ditch way, which, I mean, he still could have, and if he had stayed on the track, of course, he would have won the race, but they didn't have to make it so hard for themselves. Imola was fine, Portugal was fine, and honestly, I thought in Spain it was fine. I know people will say, oh, why didn't Verstappen respond? Red Bull were just not as quick as Mercedes. That's why they lost the Spanish Grand Prix. They didn't lose it because they didn't pit Max a lap after Lewis pitted for the second time. That's not why. The reason they lost is because Mercedes were quicker, because if Max had pitted a lap later, he probably would have come out behind Lewis Hamilton. So, I mean, and even if he came out just about ahead, like I said in the review of that Grand Prix, even if he come out just about ahead, I still think Hamilton would have found a way past. So that's not why Red Bull lost the race in Spain. It really isn't. They just didn't have a car quick enough. And Verstappen, quite frankly, did amazing to give Red Bull even a hope of winning the race, because they really didn't have the car to win the race in Spain, as long as Mercedes didn't make massive mistakes or, had mechanical trouble. So Red Bull's strategy this season has been fine. Mercedes' strategy this season has been great. And again, the only thing in Monaco you can really get wrong on strategy is putting your car into traffic, which, in terms of the first and what is going to be only pit stop on Sunday, the first pit stop is so crucial, again, in terms of not putting your car into traffic, because let's say Verstappen is leading by a second from Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen pits and comes out in traffic, then even if Hamilton, he's on older tyres, if he can then do a couple laps in clean air and Verstappen's in dirty air, then Hamilton will jump him anyway. That's the only thing you've got to watch out for, again, on the strategic side, is when someone pits, what the traffic situation is like. That's actually a big reason why at the last Monaco Grand Prix 2 years ago, Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen, who both had great qualifyings and were up in 5th and 6th place, pitted during the safety car, which was a massive mistake, but because the cars that were directly behind them, which I think were the Toro Rossos and the McLarens, I think Romain Grosjean and the Haas as well, were able to then jump them in the pit stop phase because they went much longer into the race and the cars behind even them held up Ricciardo and Magnussen. So as long as they don't make such an obvious critical error like that, which I don't think they will, because they've all got driver trackers on their system, so they'll know exactly when they pit a car where it's going to come out on track and whether there'll be clean or dirty air for them. As long as they get that right, strategy is not really going to be that important for the Grand Prix this weekend. like I've said, and I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, 90% of your result in Monaco in the race will be because of what you've done in qualifying. Very hard to make up ground in the race. The only way you can is either through, again, a brilliant strategy call or luck. You can't just naturally make your way through the field and overtake people, because overtaking in Monaco has been nigh on impossible since the beginning of time, not the end of time. So yeah, strategy wise, even though it is of course interest in most Grand Prix, this weekend it's not really that big of a deal, unless again a critical mistake is made, like the Lewis Hamilton one in 2015. Right. Let me read out one final comment, and then we'll get to the rest of the teams. Mecca says Verstappen and Perez both need podiums this weekend. Verstappen must win, or else the championship is done. I don't think it's done, but I think if Hamilton won this weekend, then you'd have to say it's at least 70% in Hamilton's favour that he's going to win the championship. If Verstappen, though, like I said, if Verstappen did not finish the race and Hamilton won the race, then I'd have to say, yeah, championship done, because Hamilton's too good, the Mercedes team are too good, and the car is still very good, that, you know, a 40-point lead to overcome for the rest, you know, for the final 17 races or so would be very difficult, and I think too much to ask for Max Verstappen and Red Bull, which is why if Verstappen can win the next two races and get equal in terms of points in the title race with Hamilton, or even just about ahead, then, you know, he can give himself time. If he does find himself in a difficult situation where he's, you know, 15, 20 points behind at some point, he gives himself time to pull himself out of that hole, because he doesn't want to let it build up too early or build up too soon. So, yeah, critical that Verstappen has a good weekend. Anyway, I think we'll get into the rest of the teams. So, Aston Martin, this weekend they shouldn't really have the car, to be honest. I think because of their drivers, though, I still think they can get a car into the top 10. Probably Sebastian Vettel, but you never know. Lance Stroll might get up in there. Stroll has massively improved in the last couple of years since we last raced here in Monaco, so we'll have to see what Stroll can do. But yeah, I think Aston Martin, they've got a chance. They've got a chance of a top 10 starting spot for the race, and even a points finish for the Grand Prix as well. Because if you look at Spain, even though they didn't have a car that was that well suited to that circuit, you know, they were 11th and 13th in qualifying, which is still pretty decent considering the car they have for this season. So they're going to be in there, Aston Martin, but just don't expect, you know, too much, I think. To be honest, 9th or 10th is, if they're going to finish in the points, that's what it's going to be. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to get up in 7th or 8th. I think maybe a couple of weeks ago I said I think Vettel will finish in 8th place. I have since revised that. Because, yeah, I just don't see how Vettel can get ahead of that many good drivers or cars at the minute in what he's in. So, yeah, I think if Aston Martin are to get a point, it's only going to be 1 or 2. It's not going to be anything massive for the team, and it's definitely not going to make any difference on their constructors' position of 7th currently. Next up, AlphaTauri. For Yuki Tsunoda, I think he's in for another hard weekend, because Monaco is a track you do not want to be racing at when you have no confidence going in, which he currently has. So, yeah, I think Yuki Tsunoda will struggle, honestly, at this Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly, though. It's hard to say. Very hard to say. I don't think the AlphaTauri is that well suited to a track like this. I think it'd definitely be a better car on a track like Baku, for example. But because of how great Pierre Gasly has been this season, especially in qualifying, you've got to put him, in that hat for getting into the top 10. Where in the top 10 he'll finish, I don't quite know. I'm favouring 8th or 9th. I'd probably say 8th place. I think he's definitely good enough to put in a superb single lap and then, kind of maintain that in the race. But I think he'll definitely be in the top 10 because he's too good. I know in Spain, even though he did get a point and really should have got 2 points from Esteban Ocon, if the AlphaTauri was a bit quicker getting past traffic at the late part of the Spanish Grand Prix. And yeah, I know in Spain, in qualifying, they weren't that great, AlphaTauri, but there was reasons for that. I think it's because they set the car up to be, or kind of gave it a wet setup, really, that car, because it was so slow in the first sector where it really power dominant in the Circuit de Catalunya track. But yeah, this weekend, Gasly will definitely be featuring in the top 10, and I think he will bag some points for the team. But Yuki Tsunoda, again, tough weekend he is in for yet again. For Alpine, I think Alpine, they've got a car this weekend that should be strong. Because if you look at their performances in the last couple of weekends, 2 aerodynamic type circuits, Portimao and Circuit de Catalunya, they put in some good performances. The race pace at the end of the Spanish Grand Prix wasn't great, but they were on a one-stop race, so that did kind of explain why. And yeah, I think Alpine, they've had a very good last couple races, but going into this Grand Prix, it's very hard, kind of like McLaren, to say where they're going to be. They should get a car into the top 10. And I think they probably will. And at this current point, I'd have to favour Esteban Ocon to get, an Alpine into the top 10 over Fernando Alonso, because Fernando Alonso simply in qualifying has not been up to scratch. In the races, his pace has been kind of on a par with Esteban Ocon, to be honest. But in qualifying, Ocon has been miles quicker. So I'd have to favour Ocon to get Alpine into the points and anywhere near a good finish. But again, like McLaren, very hard to say what Alpine are going to be. I do think that they'll be basically level with McLaren, but it'll come down in terms of who wins that battle to the drivers. And I think because of McLaren's drivers and how they performed this season, I think McLaren will win that battle. So Alpine, 4th or 5th best team I think they'll be this weekend. Hopefully the drivers are on it, and hopefully their car continues to be on it as it has been so far this season. Alfa Romeo, similar story to Spain. I think they will have okay at best qualifying pace, but because of how hard it is to overtake here, like it was at the Circuit de Catalunya, they will make progress in the race, I think, because of their very good race pace, but because of how hard it is to overtake again, they will not score points. I think, honestly, the next place I could see them scoring points, Baku is a possibility, but realistically, I would say probably the Austrian Grand Prix. They're not great around power-dominant tracks, Alfa Romeo, but because of how good Kimi Raikkonen is at the Red Bull Ring, I think that could be a points finish in the making then. Of course, there's 2 races there, so you'd hope Alfa Romeo could score points in one of those 2 races at least. But yeah, this weekend, I just don't see what Alfa Romeo can really do. And then for Williams, we will keep a very keen eye out for George Russell because, of course, he is Mr. Saturday, and Saturdays are so important to your result here in Monaco. But I don't think Williams will have the car this weekend. I think, though, if you look at the circuits coming up that say after Monaco, a lot of them are a lot more suiting for the Williams car, especially the Red Bull Ring. The 2 races now, the Red Bull Ring instead of the 1. So I think Williams could be on for a points finish very, very soon, but I don't think it'll be Monaco because Williams, I just don't think, have the car for this circuit. And also, if you look at Williams' Monaco Grand Prix history, it is pretty abysmal. Even when they were dominating, it was abysmal. So I don't think they're going to really be troubling anywhere near the midfield pack of the grid. So let me just go instead to this picture, which I think will basically sum up this weekend. Hamilton and Verstappen, and honestly, if I was to predict, yeah, I think Hamilton will win the race on Sunday because he'll get pole position. So let's see what Max can do. It's a big weekend for him. If he's gonna beat Hamilton this season, I think he's gonna have to really just be better than Hamilton for the next 17, 18 races. How many we have, for this season, and it all starts here in Monaco. Of course, we've had 4 races already. Hamilton has won 3 of them. Advantage definitely with Lewis Hamilton, but I don't think Max has quite been at his best so far this season. But I'll just read out a few more comments from you guys, and then we'll get on to at the end of the stream here. And then also, make sure to stick around, guys, because I will let you guys know of the schedule on Saturday. Remember, the reason I'm doing this preview tonight and not Thursday is because, of course, the free practice 1 and 2 day we normally have before the big Saturday qualifying day in Monaco is on a Thursday, because on Friday they do their, glamour and PR events and all of that crap. So that's why I'm doing it tonight, because, of course, practice is tomorrow. Hello from Malaysia, says BTP channel. Hello to you. Let me find some other comments here if I can. Sonoda needs to calm down. Bristol Racing then says, sorry, Sonoda needs to fucking chill out. Let me find some other comments here if I can. Chaz, what is your opinion on sprint races? I fucking hate them. That's from Richard Racing. Crystal Racing in the chat. That's not what he says, even though he probably echoes what I have to say. But that's what I say. I fucking hate sprint races. And I will, just to remind you guys, if you don't know, of course, there will be a sprint qualifying race at Silverstone. I will not be covering that at all. I refuse, because I hate the idea so much, and I don't want to do something I hate. So, and I don't want you guys to hear the lack of enthusiasm in my voice for something I just don't even want to watch. Hello to Aline from Paris. Hello to David Black from Arizona. Let's read out a couple more comments. You know what? I'll read this final one out from let me try and get this right. On Objective Personality, who asks, do a top 10 prediction. So, I'm not going to do one for qualifying, but I will do one for the race. Well, for qualifying, I do think Hamilton will get pole and win the race, like I've said. I think it'll be Hamilton winning the race, from Max Verstappen second, Charles Leclerc third, and then I think it'll then be Perez fourth, Bottas fifth, and then sixth, I'm going to go Carlos Sainz, and then seventh, I will go with Pierre Gasly in P7. P8, I will go for Daniel Ricciardo, and then P9, Lando Norris, and then P10, I will go for... Who am I going to go for? You know what? I'm going to go for Sebastian Vettel. So there you go. So Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Bottas, Sainz, Gasly, Ricciardo, Norris, Vettel. That's my top 10 for the race. Really, I've guessed half of that. So we'll see if that's true. My predictions as of late actually have been really good, so we'll see if it does, if that success rate, I guess you could call it, continues. But that's, in my mind, that's what seems the most likely top 10 finishing order for the race on Sunday. But guys, that is it for, of course, this stream previewing the Monaco Grand Prix for 2021, which of course is this weekend. Now, just to let you guys know, on Saturday I will be live at 10:45 a.m. UK time for the Practice 3 watch along, which gets underway 15 minutes later at 11 a.m. UK time, and then I'll be live again at 1:30 p.m. UK time for qualifying on Saturday for the Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, qualifying gets underway half an hour later at 2 p.m. UK time, and then on Saturday night I will be live for the race preview at 6 p.m. UK time for about an hour, and then of course on Sunday I'll be live at 1:30 p.m. UK time for the race watch along for the 2021 Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, the race starts at 2 o'clock, so don't forget to be around for that. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content coming up. Again, bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, subscribing, or just go to my channel page, and there you can also hit the notifications bell. Don't forget to share this video everywhere and share this channel everywhere. Don't forget to smash the like button. Comment down below what you think will happen this weekend and what the key fights are and all of that. Let me know again in the comment section down below. And just in general, let me know what your predictions are for this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix as well. Don't forget to join my Discord, link below in the description. That's the best place, I'd say, for notifications for my videos. Because the notification system on Discord is a lot better. As long as you're active on Discord, it's a lot better than it is on this website. So make sure to join the Discord server. Also make sure to join it because we have very nearly 500 people in that server, and it is quite active for motorsport and Formula 1 chat and debate. So if you want to join it for that, then make sure to do so. Again, link below in the description, and I'm sure Rookspert is posting links in the chat currently. If you want to click that link, then go right there. But guys, until my Practice 3 watch along on Saturday morning and the Saturday qualifying day, the most important day at Monaco, the most exciting day in Monaco, again, qualifying day for the Monaco Grand Prix. Until then, guys, it has been me, Chazza HD.